Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alex Aquarius Show. This is Stories and Prayer. Right now, we're going to talk about the moment when you die. Watch this really quick. The moment that you die, what happens? Do you remember everything that you know now? Yes, you do. I have my own death experience. I can tell you, when you realize you're dead, you remember everything. And you know exactly what you do on earth, whatever books you read, you remember all of it. There's no mind erasing yet. Watch this. Let me turn on the sound for it.
Though they will try every trick and deception to make you change your mind. So what is the
Rewind
specific
that.
exit protocol for bypassing the lunar soul trap? This is the practical knowledge that needs to be encoded in your consciousness now, while you're alive, so that it arises automatically when you die and you're in an altered state where confusion is easy and manipulation is likely. The protocol has multiple stages, each one critical to successful exit. Stage 1, the moment you die, maintain awareness. Do not panic. Do not become disoriented. And most importantly, recognize that you are not dead in any permanent sense. You are simply transitioning from physical to non-physical awareness. You are consciousness, eternal and indestructible. And what just happened is that you took off the body like taking off clothing. Stay calm. Stay aware. And remember who you really are. Infinite divine consciousness, temporarily playing the role of a human, but never limited to that role. Stage 2, refuse the tunnel. When the white light appears, when the tunnel forms, when you feel the pull toward it, actively resist. Do not
Say
go
no.
toward the light.
No.
This is the hardest part because the pull is strong, because the light appears so beautiful and loving, and because if you see deceased loved ones or religious figures, your emotional attachment will want to follow them. But you must understand, this is technology. This is manipulation. The real divine source does not send a tunnel to collect you. The real God does not need to lure you with projections of dead relatives. Stay where you are, refuse to enter the tunnel, and wait for the system to realize you're not complying. Stage 3, declare your sovereignty. Speak clearly, using your consciousness with absolute authority. I am a sovereign divine being, a spark of the infinite creator. I do not consent to memory erasure. I do not consent to soul contracts. I do not consent to reincarnation on earth. I recognize no authority over my consciousness except the true source beyond all archons, beyond all systems, beyond this creation. I demand passage to my true home beyond this matrix. This declaration invokes universal law and forces the entities operating the system to acknowledge your right to refuse. Stage 4, when entities appear claiming to be guides, angels, or deceased loved ones, test them. Demand they reveal their true form in the name of the highest divine source. Archonic projections cannot maintain their disguise when confronted with direct truth. If they are genuine higher beings, they will not be offended by your testing them. If they are archonic entities, they will either disappear, reveal their true reptilian or grey form, or become angry and threatening. Any being that tries to make you feel guilty for questioning them, that insists you must follow them, or that claims you have karmic obligations, is not a genuine guide. Thank them for their service and send them away. Stage 5. Do not look toward Earth. Do not look toward the moon. Look away from the planetary system entirely. Look toward deep space, toward the galactic center, toward what feels like the direction of home, even if you can't rationally identify.
Right there is where I separate and go on a different path, because I know that the earth is an infinite plane and that the world we live in is like the Truman Show. We're limited. We cannot go beyond the 60th parallel around our oceans. And if you go beyond that, you will be shot or your boat will be sunk. There are people who've gone to prison. There's a European guy that tried to go to 2 times. First time got sent away and went to court, was on probation, and then went and did it again. I don't know if he's still in prison, but when you die, You just go straight up. All of the planets and the moon and everything have their cycles, and everything is above the earth. And then you go beyond the moon and its cycle and its machinery, and then you go beyond all of the planets. But the planets will line up in front of you in a line, because when you're in spiritual form and everything is there in the astral spiritual sense, you can line up the planets. The planets are doorways to get through to the highest level where God is. To get beyond the planets, you have to go through each one. And as a spirit, you can go through each one. There is no physicality in it. You go through the planets and you go straight up. There will be the waters. You will continue accelerating, and there will be waters above. And then you go into those waters, and it seems like a wormhole, but it's very bright because you have all of the stars in there and all of the star systems. And then when you're going so fast, you could cross the entire star system. And that's what you're doing as you go through this water. And when you get out of that, there's a level above that. And this is in several drawings. And I was going to look that up for you and show you, but I forgot. Let's go to the next. I will look for that later. Listen to what David Icke says about the recycling place, the moon. There's a cube on the moon, and I've heard this before. And here's what is claimed to be an actual picture of a cube on the moon. It's in one of the pictures somehow of a lunar landscape. I don't actually believe that anyone was on the moon, so I don't know how this picture was taken. But David Icke says it's a cube, actually. He may be wrong about the picture, but listen to what his idea is. He has a great mountain of wealth of experiences of other people he's talked to, great spiritual leaders and people who have died all over the world, and people send him stories and his own stories and his own epiphanies. So he's got a lot to say about it.
So this whole light thing is a trap as well. So when you are manipulated and prepared beforehand to see light as something positive, and then suddenly you leave the body, and because of the mind wipe, you're completely bloody confused what's happening. Then what happens is the light appears, and it's soothing light. It's very much nicer than the shite I've just left. Oh, this must be heaven. And then you have your spiritual masters and your guides and your loved ones and such like, which as I've concluded that they are AI projections. They're AI projections that relate to you individually. And when people say that's not possible, that's fantastic. Well, hold on a minute. There's 1.5 billion people in China, and the great majority of them are tracked 24/7. So if they can do it in China, they can certainly do it in the bloody astral with an AI technological possibility that's way, way beyond anything that humans can currently conceive. And when people talk about, Edgar Cayce talks about the Akashic records, when you see how these Akashic records, where they say that everything is recorded, everything is kept, it's like an infinite library of everything that's ever happened in this reality.
Sounds like a cloud.
Yeah, they're talking about a database. And when I read, like in Edgar Cayce sites and stuff, how they describe the Akashic records, they're even using computer analogies. They're saying, well, it's like a supercomputer. Well, you know what? It is, but way beyond anything we can perceive here. It's recording everything. So you are connected to that as an individual, quote, incarnation. And so when you leave the body and the trap has to continue to get you back here to loose you more, then you get a designer manipulation.
All right. What about this? the dark moon cube.
Is that
That is the Soul Cube on the moon.
leaping lizards? See what I did there?
This photo was taken December 6, 2021 by the Chinese-made lunar rover Yutu-2 while exploring the far side of the moon. A cube-shaped object is clearly seen 80 meters from the Von Karman crater. And for some reason, the China National Space Administration labeled this object Mystery Hut. And this only lends credence to the idea that the moon is a sort of observatory with a soul-harvesting machine. There's even more evidence that Earth is actually what some call a prison planet. In his book, Humans Are Not From Earth, Dr. Ellis Silver contends that humans are actually from another planet. They were brought here thousands of years ago and mated with Neanderthals. The hybrid species is us.
My thesis proposes that mankind did not evolve from native Earth organisms, but evolved elsewhere and was transported to Earth between 60,000 and 200,000 years ago. Mankind is supposedly the most highly developed species on the planet, yet is surprisingly unsuited and ill-equipped for Earth's environment.
Isn't that right?
The idea that extraterrestrials played a role in human history is also known as intervention theory. Dr. Silver argues that if humans actually evolved on Earth, we'd be much more comfortable with the environment. For example, humans are really the only animals that are susceptible to sunburn. Fish, reptiles, birds all have natural ultraviolet protection in their scales and feathers. Whales and dolphins have special skin cells that repair DNA damaged by UV radiation. Any mammal with fur is protected from ultraviolet rays, including apes. If we evolved from apes, why did we lose our hair? Evolution is supposed to make us stronger, not weaker.
Not true for your Uncle Vito.
That's true, he's because we were violent. It's going to be denied.
This is the
The
Y
existence
files.
of the human soul has been pondered, well, forever. Greek philosophers like Plato pointing at the moon.
The moon. I'm not going to go all the way through all of this from the Y files, but I wanted to show you that one part. But what I'm talking about with you guys is the moon is actually a machine. Think about it, what they were just saying on the Y files. If our genes actually show that we were transported here before we were hybrids as a lineage from whoever came 60 to 200,000 years ago, then wouldn't it seem to fit that they would have the technology to put the moon in place? Or who put the moon there? You know, the Hopi Indians have legends about time before the moon existed and when it was brought here. And think about the moon. The moon, you know, it raises the tides, but it's also associated with feminine energy. And you have the cycle of the womb, of gestation, and the menstruation in order to acquire an embryo and create another life. If you can create another life from a unit that was already brought to Earth, a DNA being, bodysuit, then instead of selling more of those, why don't you just have it reproduce itself? Give it a reproduction system and let it go, let it populate the Earth. That's what happened. Let me
By
see where
what
the
that
rest of
means.
this one goes.
Call to your
I
true origin point. Stage 6. Move through what appears to be a much smaller, less obvious opening. The exit from the Earth-Moon system is not a grand highway. It's a narrow passage, something many souls miss because they're too busy looking at the huge, inviting tunnel. The real exit appears as a small point of golden or violet light, or simply as a directional knowing. Move toward it quickly and deliberately. As you approach it, you may feel the lunar field trying to pull you back, trying to create fear or doubt. Ignore these feelings. They are electromagnetic manipulation. Keep moving forward. Stage 7. Once you
I've been
pass
there.
through the exit point, you will experience a sudden shift, almost like breaking through a membrane or passing through a barrier. On the other side, the quality of light is different, the sense of space is different, and most importantly, you will feel your memory beginning to return. You will remember who you really are, Remember previous lives if you've had them. Remember your soul mission if you had one. And remember the true nature of Earth as a prison planet that you just escaped from. From this point, you are free. You can return to your soul family. You can go to genuine higher dimensional realms, or you can choose to incarnate elsewhere in the universe, where reincarnation is voluntary and memory is not erased. Now, there is an alternative protocol for souls who have committed to returning to Earth deliberately one more time to help with the liberation of the planet, which is the mission that many awakened souls are currently on. If this is your path, the protocol is different. After death, you still refuse the standard tunnel and processing. You still declare sovereignty and refuse memory wipe. But instead of exiting the system completely, you demand to be taken to genuine higher councils, to Galactic Federation representatives, or ascended master collectives that exist outside archonic control. You stay.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. I wanted to tell you that all of that, what he's talking about, go to, he's telling you to request to go to a higher council, talk to some Galactic Federation control. But do you know have you seen the drawings where God is at the very top of the chart? It says the firmament. And there was a drawing in the UN building that showed the circles of all of the planets and their orbits. And it was all concentric over the Earth. And it was a flat plane Earth. And then it showed at the very top the stars and a layer of water. And then the firmament. And it showed an Amanita muscaria mushroom. And it says paradise. Do you remember that drawing from the UN buildings? It was floating around like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know where they went. I can find it. I found it once. But when I saw that, it struck my soul. Because that was the map of where I went one time. I had an experience out of body in answer to a prayer. And it was just a jaunt up to paradise just to receive an answer. But it was a great blessing. The Lord showed me that. Showed me actually the truth of when I was in a discussion, a missionary discussion with a family, and I was sitting there, and the next minute I'm being electrically charged with vibration, and I can't stand it, and I think I'm going to explode, and the next thing I know, you go through each planet, and they all line up, and then you speed up even faster. You're continually accelerating. And I think you go faster than the speed of light, because the speed of light is a construct within our planetary system. But once you get to where God is, where God and the source of his light and energy, it's a different light. It's one that you will find a comfort and a feeling of belonging, and you will know that you were there before. I know I was there before because I knew how the floor worked. I waved my arm over the floor and focused on the house that I was in. Now, how did since I've had that experience, I'm thinking, how did I know to wave my hand over the floor? Wow. In another experience, I drowned and was in my shower. I was sick and I fell. I had a bacterial infection and a couple of days of really bad pain in my stomach and diarrhea and no sleep, and got in my shower with the hot water, and I hit my head and I slipped off my toes and I fell into the shower tub that was that deep on my left cheek, and still have the scar. If you see that discolored area of my cheek has a discoloration and a line where a plastic surgeon sewed up the round necrotic area where it's right here. See where it goes. And it's even still discolored. It has a dark. I was on my cheek like that underwater on the tile for almost 2 hours. And I went to a place where I saw all of the spirits. I'm sorry. I saw all of the spirits when I died, and I woke up, and I was in my torus, my spirit toroid. And it was about 8-9 feet in diameter. But inside of my own spirit toroid was my own little world. But it had the size and the shape of my bathroom. And it had the walls of my bathroom and the sink counter, and the walk-in closet was on the other side, about 12 feet away. But I'm inside of my spirit torus, which was only like 8 feet in diameter. So spatially, it's hard to describe things when you're inside of your own spirit made constructed world, and you're picturing the bathroom you were just in that you just left. And the walls are there, but you can't see them. But I did see the beings that keep us there. They came up to my spirit bubble, my spirit torus, my toroid energy field, and they walked up to me, and I only saw their bust because there was like an invisible wall. It was like the wall of my bathroom. They're 8 feet high, but it was like a wall that was invisible that blocked their full bodies. It was like I was inside of a cardboard box, but yet I was inside of my toroid, my own spirit field, my own spherical halo, let's say. And they looked at me, and these beings were old looking. They looked human, but they had black eyes. Remember in this video, it showed the beings with the multiple eyes, with the fingers. They were like that, but they only had 2 eyes, but they were big and black. Not like alien gray black, but they were like ours, but just big eyeballs, black, all black. And they had wrinkly skin, and they just looked pale and ashy and very skinny, bony. They were almost like skeletons, and they came up to me, and the one said to the other telepathically, I could hear them, and he said, "He doesn't belong here. What is he doing here? Send him back." And I rose up out of all of that. And there were people all around me who had just died. People on their hands and knees, people in accidents, people crying. And I just was starting to figure out as I became more and more aware. And I think if those beings had not come around and sent me back, I would have stood up and said, "Hey, I don't belong here. Where's heaven? I'm leaving. I'm not going with your tunnel. I don't need your program. I'm done with this mission. I don't need to see a council. I don't need to see your archons. I'm rising above all of the moon machine and the planetary systems to be above of my own sovereign being, which is literally like a child of God. And you cannot hold me here." And you have to do that. You have to stand up and declare that before your mind wipe. Be sure and do that before your mind wipe. Stand up and say, "No, I'm out. I will not do that. I do not need to choose another womb and come back." They might come up to you and give you choices, and they might sense that you have a sense of guilt and responsibility and seriousness about the matter, like you are contemplating coming back and wondering if you either can continue your mission, or maybe your guilt tells you can do a better job if you're just allowed to come back. But they erase your mind every time. So when you're born, you don't remember anything. Somehow I think there's not a perfect continuity to that erasing machine, because there are babies and people who remember their previous life. There are children. Remember the kid who came out about 12, 15 years ago that had flown an airplane in World War II, and the Japs shot him down in a battle over Okinawa or something like that. And he would lay in his crib at night, and he would scream and scream and scream and say he'd been shot, and he was on fire, and he was screaming. And one night, he was like 3 years old, and his father asked him, like, "Who's doing this to you?" And he goes, "The Japs, man, the Japs." So he even knew to say the Japs. And they swear the story's true. And I think that's the kid that they took to the home of this pilot to see the family. And he recognized somebody. There was another child, if it's not the same child, that went back to a home and recognized the woman who used to be his wife, who was an old widow, and said something to her that she understood. And they were looking for the will. They asked him, if you're really my husband who died, then where is the will? We never found it. And he went to the kitchen and pulled up a tile, and it was underneath a a tile under the kitchen floor. Stories like that. Listen to this video. This is talking about why you keep reincarnating. Just remember, you want to stand up and say no before you get the mind wipe. Oh, I have to turn this on.
Texts, mystical visions, and the rare testimonies of souls who claim to have gone farther than the tunnel of light. These fragments suggest that the true return home is not another paradise, not another realm of dazzling illusion, but something vaster, a reality beyond cycles, beyond form, beyond the counterfeit heavens of the archons. The Gnostics called it the pleroma, the fullness, the radiant expanse where all sparks of divinity return to the source. To them, stepping past the moon and the planetary spheres meant bypassing the counterfeit creation of the demiurge entirely. No longer bound to the rulers of time and matter, the soul dissolved back into its true home. The light before light, the silence before sound. They insisted this realm was not distant but always present, veiled by the illusions of the lower worlds. To pierce through was to awaken to what had never been lost. The Tibetans described something similar in the Bardo Thodol. They spoke of the clear light, so radiant, so piercing, that most souls recoil in terror, preferring the softer glow of false paradises. But for those who can recognize it, who do not flee, this clear light is the gateway to liberation. It is not a place but a state, pure awareness, unconditioned, infinite. To rest in it, even for a moment, is to break the wheel of samsara. The true return is not to a garden or city, but to the nature of mind itself, vast and luminous. Egyptian teachings hint at the same. The Book of the Dead prepares the soul to pass trials and judges, but at its deepest level, it describes the soul merging with Ra, the eternal sun, sailing with him across the sky. This was no mere astral paradise, but union with the divine fire.
Wait a minute. Hold on. That's sun worship. If you find yourself riding the sun with Ra after you die, you went the wrong way. Back up, back up, back up. Just go back to where you were before that and stand still and ignore whatever guide or spirit took you to see Ra and ride with him across the sky on the sun, okay? No more sun worship. The sun is just the fourth planet above the earth. If you look at the ancient Persian cosmology of Earth, the sun is the fourth planet. There are 7 planets, and then there's a gap, and then there's the layer with the waters above, with the stars in them, in the waters. That's why stars twinkle. You're looking at them through water. Have you ever put goggles on or a mask and gone down in the pool and looked up at the surface and at people standing by the side of the pool and everything is going all wavy and crazy? That's the way you look at stars. But also the planets are just waveforms, just going in certain shapes and colors, because that's what they are. They're not the solids that NASA has, those images that they've painted that never change. Even the clouds don't change when they show you the planet. Okay?
The return to the source of all creation.
Honestly, the New Agers, they don't want to say God, so they say the source of all creation. Just say God. He's there. I've seen him. So's the Lord. They're in the firmament. There is a throne. There are pictures of angels around the throne steps.
Pass beyond the moon and stars was
Paintings,
light itself. No longer a traveler, but the journey fulfilled. Even modern accounts echo these ancient voices. Some near-death experiencers who resisted the tunnel describe entering a space of indescribable vastness, not filled with figures or landscapes, but with presence. They speak of oneness, of being everywhere and nowhere, of dissolving into a love that had no opposite. Unlike the tunnel's staged encounters, these visions carry no compulsion, no sense of being sent back. They describe freedom. A homecoming not to a place, but to what they always were. The true return home, then, is not a destination, but a remembering. It is stepping beyond the machinery of reincarnation, beyond the illusions of paradise, beyond the silver gate of the moon. It is awakening to the reality that the soul was never truly bound, never truly lost, never truly separate. The home we seek is the consciousness that has always been. And when the soul passes the final threshold, it does not arrive somewhere new. It awakens to what it has always been, infinite, eternal, free. If the passage beyond the moon's gate depends on awareness, then the work must begin here, in this life. Death does not suddenly grant wisdom. It reveals what has been cultivated. The soul that drifts through life asleep will drift into death asleep. But the one who trains in clarity, presence, and remembrance will carry those qualities into the passage. The ancients knew this well, and so they left practices, not to worship the trap, but to prepare for its unveiling. To live awake is to die awake, and to die awake is to pass through unbound. Meditation is the first foundation.
Do you hear what he was saying? Die awake. Make sure from this video on you're hearing my voice. When you die, immediately look at who's rounding up the souls, and you're moving on a path toward the moon. And they're just going about their business, hurting you out there like you belong, you want to be there, you know, you realize, you feel it, you'll go along with it. But if you're one of the outliers and you stand up and you say, hey, I do not belong here. I do not accept what you're doing. I do not want to go back. I'm leaving here and I'm going to the expansive place where God is. I'm going up. I want to accelerate and go toward God. So you go out and you look for your own, become aware who you are, because you are a celestial being in here. You're children of God, every one of us. And it's all about, all you have to do is remember. Right when you die, there's a moment you can remember, because if you go with them, they're going to erase your mind and you won't remember the life. Like I said before, it's odd how some people remember, some don't.
It is called shamatha, calm abiding, and vipassana, insight. The one quiets the storm of thought, the other pierces through illusion. When the mind grows still, the soul begins to see its own patterns, its own attachments. In that stillness, one learns not to cling to every thought, not to recoil from every fear. This is the exact training needed for the bardo. When dazzling visions and terrifying apparitions arise, meditation teaches, let them come, let them go. Do not mistake them for ultimate reality. The Tibetans insisted that meditation was rehearsal for death itself, a way of practicing liberation daily. Presence is the second practice. To live in the now is to weaken the grip of the past and the pull of the future, the two poles that keep karma alive. Presence dissolves the scripts that repeat unconsciously. Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, is recorded saying, "The kingdom of God is spread upon the earth, and men do not see it." Presence is that seeing. The Gnostics called it gnosis, the knowledge that awakens in the here and now. When practiced, presence carries into the afterlife as recognition, the ability to stand in the middle of vision and not be deceived. The third is memory of the self. In esoteric schools, this was not ordinary memory, but the remembrance of who and what one truly is. Gurdjieff taught exercises of self-remembering, urging his students to observe themselves as both actor and witness in every moment. The Egyptians encoded the same principle in their afterlife spells, arming the dead with names and identities to resist being stripped of memory. The Tibetans urged the dying to recognize the clear light as their own awareness. All of these point to the same truth. To remember the self is to resist the amnesia of reincarnation. Even modern psychology and neuroscience affirm the power of these practices. Meditation reshapes the brain, strengthening awareness and emotional regulation. Mindfulness presence has been shown to reduce fear and reactivity, exactly the qualities that bind souls in the bardo.
All right. That video is a little more new agey in what it's talking about, but it's also telling you basically escape the soul trap. What I've pulled up is an image of the ancient astronomy that was going around in a period. This is geocentric, meaning the Earth is in the middle. This would be, now, if you're hearing flat Earth for the first time, or you've heard it's been debunked, it has not. You know, these people, they call names and they get ad hominem, you know, they shout and insult us and people who show them science, but they don't have any answers for the really good ones that we have. If you measure the distance to the sun using trigonometry, assuming you're on a flat infinite plane, the poles are parallel, then the shadows are graduated against each other on parallel poles. No matter what city or continent you're on, the poles are parallel if they're upright. Then you can measure the distance to the sun using the shadows from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. And you take NOAA data with shadows on the poles at the same moment, and you triangulate, and you find it's 3,052 miles away. All right? 3,052 miles away. If you assume the poles were splayed apart, then you would have to think that, okay, the sun's 93 million miles away, so the shadows are going to be almost parallel. But that's a lot of mental gymnastics, you know? Just Occam's razor, the whole thing, you know, just look at the most simple path. You know, the surveyor's handbook, if you read the formula for 8 inches per mile is the drop. Okay, and if you want to measure how far like a building would disappear, you take its height and you, from where you're standing, how far away it would have to be for it to completely disappear by going over a curve that increases at 8 inches per mile. And, you know, of course, it becomes exponential that way. So to measure it, you have to say 8 inches per mile squared. But the drop is 8 inches per mile. But here, if you're going to leave your body, I'm talking about the soul trap, everybody. You have to realize Earth is below you and God is straight up. It's simple, simple, simple. If you click off on what I'm saying right now, you're losing the key and you're going to be stuck and you're going to be mind wiped. You have to realize everything they've taught you, the globes in the classroom when you're in kindergarten, it's all a mess. Don't believe it. Everything tells you, especially with Artemis 2, the mission. Haven't you seen all the bloopers that are coming out? They're going viral. You know, the Nutella can that flew right in front of the camera for an op. There's the bag that went right through Jeremy's ear. There's Victor's watch I found falling about 3 inches down his wrist when he held his arm up. There's gravity, folks. You can tell by the way that Christine's hair bounces with all the hairspray and it's all teased up. It's got the same curl in it all day long. It doesn't change, just keeps sticking out from the side of her head. It's industrial strength hairspray. So what I'm telling you is, when you get there, you have to realize when you're in the spirit world, and where I was is when I realized I was dead and I'm floating with all of these beings. We were in a black space, but there were no stars that I could see. And I did not see the moon, but I felt the moon's presence to my forward left. And it was like we were going to go out and curve around to the left, wherever we were going. But it's like all the souls who had just died, they just go through this process and we're all just being herded back. It's like the stockyards in Fort Worth, Texas, you know, where you see where all the cattle are brought and pushed through the same little doorways. So it's very frustrating to know that everything you were taught since the very beginning, your very first classroom, that globe spinning around. It's not true. But when you die, and I've seen it, is what I'm telling you. Been out of my body twice in 2 different experiences. And in the first one, I saw the earth. And in the second one, I knew where it was, even though I didn't see it. It was below me, and God was straight up. So don't go to the tunnel. Ignore the loved ones. But the planets will line up in front of you. They, because when you're in your state of your being that's free and independent and sovereign, comes straight from God's presence. You don't have time as it's wound up in the clocks and the speed of the sun and moon and all of the charts and the zodiac and all that. You're free from the whole machinery of what is Earth. And you don't count time, but the planets spatially, Einstein and everybody say you can actually fold time. You don't move across space. You just kind of think about it and it comes to you. Like the flying saucers, I've actually been in one when I was 6. You don't feel any inertia when it takes off. You don't go, you don't feel any whirring or any, you can't tell when you're stuck. You just feel like you're sitting there. And all of the places that we went to, it's like they came to us, but they have that technology because they understand it's, they're breaking the gravity field around that craft, and then they're becoming free of the flux between the 2 energy fields that run Earth. You have the frequency of Earth and the frequency of Polaris, and when they combine through the north, we get this flux that shoots across the plane to the cathodes, and that's gravity. So, of course, this is my theory. It makes a lot of damn sense. I'm pretty good at electronics. The only company I ever had electronics in its name, and I've been working with neurosurgeons on neurostim with electricity. So look at these planets that you go through. This is an ancient chart of the Earth being in the center, and these are the planets in order. It says the moon, Mercury, Venus. The sun is the sol. Solis. That's the sun. Mars. Jupiter is Jovis. And then Saturn, correct? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Saturn is the 6th planet if you don't count the moon. But there are 7 bodies you go through if you count the moon. That's why these numbers over here are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see that? And then look right here. Stars and the water. There's the Pisces symbol and the stars. But once you go through the star layer, you get to, what is this? That's water. I thought the stars were in the water. In my experience, I went into the water first, but it was all bright because the stars were there. Okay, I went to this part, and then it says firmament. Celsium. Decrimum Celsium. Primum mobile. This is where God is. All right, folks. So it's not that hard if you will just believe the truth without everything that's jaded you. Here I am, just a little voice. Somebody's going to hear this video someday, and I hope it helps you, because if it's 80 or 90 years from now when you pass, and you're going to remember back to me saying, there's this video I remember some guy saying, I don't even remember who he was, but I heard this somewhere, that when you die, you just focus on the planets and getting past them. Just go through them. When you think about it, they'll line up in front of you. And then the planets are doorways. You have to go through each doorway to get out of the maze. This is why the deception is so important, people. The Earth is a plane. And if you don't know that when you die, you're lost. You know, because you're going to be looking for. This would be a depiction of where the Lord is and where God is, and there's that misty floor. On this drawing, that would be up here above this line. That's the primo. That's the primo mobile above the stars. So you go through the planets, and then you go through the stars and the water, and then you get to where God is. And I did that journey, and I can tell you, you speed up and you go faster and faster through each one, and you continue accelerating. And here comes another planet, and it's Mars, and you're going through it. And I remember the sun, it had a lot of energy. You could feel it kind of pulling on you as you went through it. And then I saw Saturn. I don't remember seeing the rings of Saturn specifically. But I remember Jupiter was huge. But that's it. It's that simple, everybody. When you die, you're going to remember everything, just like right now. Just an hour ago, what did you eat? Where were you an hour ago? Did you talk to your neighbor? What were you doing? You're going to have full memory of everything. Everything you talk about, everything you read, all of the things that you like, music that you like, the science that you like, things you like to talk about. If you're listening to this video, I can pretty much assume that you're a person that likes these topics, and you're looking and you're searching and you're open-minded, and you probably prefer doing this, let's say, to going to a party, a loud party, you know, unless it was your best friend's birthday party and you were planning it. But the trick is, look at this. So this is ancient astronomy right here. This is exactly, let's see, where I've used this chart before in a graphic, and that's Aristotle, Ptolemy. This is Greek. This is the Greek star map of the Earth in the center. Now, who changed it from that? It was the Romans in the Vatican. And that all comes out of the astronomers from the Vatican, which are usually the Jesuit astronomers. Here's Ptolemy and his geocentric model of the universe. Now, I don't believe in what you would call a universe, because once you get past the planets and the stars and the water above, and you're in the firmament with God, where that misty floor is, and there are angels and people like me and you who've gone back, and we're all there. And I assume once we're up there, there are places to go through to from there. That's just the beginning. That's just the entranceway where you land when you come back. I think from there, I would like to think that God is not sitting on that throne full time. Like he constructed Earth and he's sitting there during all of our progress, and whenever we go up to meet him and see the Lord and answer, when we have prayers answers and we have faint glimpses of the firmament in heaven, that he has a life, you know, maybe he's doing something with other loved ones, or he's somewhere else creating something else. Or does he dedicate 100% of his time to be on that throne in that same spot for what we would consider eternity? I would just like to kindly think not. Okay, so this is the Greek geocentric theory. Ancient Greeks such as Aristotle believed that the universe was perfect and finite, with the Earth at the exact center. This is the geocentric theory, which stated the planets, moon, and sun and stars revolve around the Earth. And that is the truth. What started the change? Who started changing the playing field? Who moved the goalpost, you know? Who were we talking to? When suddenly it was about the sun being, you know, you have, who was the guy that was thrown away in prison? It just left my mind. The Roman. He was played by the actor that was on Dynasty. The bad guy. What's his name? Oh. Anyway, he was talking about the sun being the center of a solar system, and then the solar system being in a universe, and the universe has Oort clouds, and then there's billions and billions and billions of planets like ours and other things, and these are all to distract you, because literally, get out of line before your mind gets wiped. I'm only showing you all this stuff because I'm just keep going back to the same message of this video is when you die, you're going to even remember me saying this. Don't go to the light. Resist seeing, even if you see loved ones, have them prove themselves. Tell them that you want to go to the Most High God and to the firmament, and you're trying to get beyond the waters and the stars. You have to leave the moon and its recycling machinery, and you have to go through the planets. Which way do I go? And see what they say. Because that's the actual map, and that's why they fool you, and that's why I'll tell you, this is all according to Alex Aquarius, but I was, my mother was going to give me a book, a Freemasons book. I assume it was Morals and Dogma. I never looked at it even. The one that Albert Pike wrote, Morals and Dogma, the Scottish Rite. And she also had his ring, and she wanted me to join the Freemasons. And at one point in my life, I had thought about that. And then I just thought, no, I'm just not interested. I'm not a joiner. I can't go to some weekly or even monthly activity that, the church requires enough already with kids and the youth programs and things like that. How am I going to go hang out with guys and do rituals and share secrets and have a whole other agenda on my plate? And I also suspected that it's something about it's not right. So all of the investigating that I've ever done into anything to do with Freemasonry tells me that, and it's not just one group. It's not like the United Grand Lodge of England. That's the biggest one. Ugly, they call it. It's acronym, but it's not like, it's not like every single person, if you get to be a Grand Master of a lodge, it's not like you're a criminal who's done terrible things, but maybe even if you were, you're still a brother, and they will fight for you, and you have to fight for them. You're obligated. But what I was getting to is on Earth, you have the square, which is the masculine energy. And I read this from someone, I think it was Mark Passio. The Earth is the masculine square energy of the compass and the square. It's their symbol. The masculine side is the Earth world that we live in right now. The life that we're living is within the masculine energy of this Earth and what I call the machinery of the moon going around, and it makes our days and nights and the energy it gives us and the cycles it has, and when children are conceived and born, everything's controlled by that moon. And on the other side, when you die, is the compass. A compass is used to draw circles. And when you put a compass and a square together, you can actually draw how the geocentric world works, like the one in front of us in this image right now. That's geocentric because the world is in the middle. And I'm looking at 2 pointers. I'm not sure which one the little one's on the Earth now, and now the bigger one's on the Earth. I think the bigger one is the one you see. So the planets and the way you can draw them is with the compass. Okay, the compass is the feminine energy. The compass represents the next life, what people call the astral plane, the next world, the spirit world. This is where you're approached, and someone might come to you and tempt you or tell you they're taking you somewhere, or here's what's next. Come on, we're gonna take you and show you a book. They might take you to Akashic Records and tell you about past lives, and maybe put a mission together for you so you can go down and live again. You know, they'll just assume that you're going to do it. But all of that is the feminine energy. So what I get, this is my own take on the Freemason symbol. Whenever I see it on an apron or on Taco Bell's lampshades or wherever I see the compass in the square, it reminds me of control by Lucifer over this world and the world to come. And that is why people say, well, why flat earth? You know, I still have to go to work Monday, and it doesn't matter. I don't care what the shape of it, it doesn't matter. But when that moment when you die, if you don't know where you're at or where God is, how are you going to get anywhere? And you're just going to have to go with them. If they take you through a light tunnel, and look at it also this way, light is just light. The moon's light is just a light, and the speed of light is only within the construct that we have on Earth, with the sun being the fourth planet and the energy that it provides and what's been measured, given the extreme absurd distances given to us by the Vatican from the astronomers. They don't work out, guys. I'm telling you, a lot of it goes on faith, because if you do the math, I'm a mathematician, I'm an economist, which means I've studied a lot of physics. When you're studying economics and you're in these math classes, half of the class is made up of physics majors and the other half is economics majors. And we know between each other that we all study the same math. We use the same tools, just in different ways. And so I learned a lot about physics and also astronomy. So get past the light of the planetary systems and the moon construct and all that machinery, and still yourself and think about your awareness of a powerful sovereign being from the firmament, from all the way up from where God is. And imagine yourself there and returning. And tell yourself and people around you, that's where you're going. How do I get there? And look for the path. And I'm telling you, it's straight up. And the planets are doorways. If you don't go through them, you can't get there. And that's my message really for tonight, was all about that. So I hope you liked it. I will get ideas for videos as I'm watching videos during the day. And earlier in the evening, around 7 p.m., you know, I usually try to launch by 11:30 at night. And I was thinking, I really don't have a topic for tonight, but something will come to me. Something will come to me. And then I don't remember, someone started talking about the soul trap and the prison planet and how it works. And it's that moment when you die. If you go, they will actually take your body. When you die, I know this. I was there when I drowned for 2 hours. I went to a place, I told you I was in this toroid energy field that was mine. And everyone else around me, they were all in their own energy fields. Like we were eggs in a caviar cluster. You know, it was like we were all clustered. We were floating in black space. The rooms that we had died in, or the space on the side of the highway, wherever. I remember someone over there 7 or 8 places away that looked bloody, and I saw like a cement wall and pieces of human body. But everyone evidently had just died, and we're all waking up and wondering where we're at and realizing what happened, and then wondering where we are and where we're going, because we were floating, like I said, on like a swath path. It was like the Nike swoosh symbol. We were going off at an angle, and it was just like, kind of like this picture right here, where we were going up, and like we were going to go around the moon to the other side. We were headed toward the dark side of the moon. That's odd. I haven't thought of it that way actually either. We were headed to the back side. We didn't just go straight through the front. It wasn't not like there was a secret door or tunnel in one of these craters. We were flying around to the back. But it was a whole cluster of us all floating. And then that's when those two beings, they were going through the line like they were the conductor on a train checking your tickets in Europe, you know. And they just went and they were looking in each torus bubble, energy bubble of each person. When they got up to mine, he doesn't belong here. What is he doing here? Send him back. And I still don't know to this day if they sent me back because they could tell that I was aware. I already knew about the prison planet. And I already knew that there were beings that would... I knew this whole talk before I'm giving it to you right now. Before my death experience. That was in 2012. So 13 years ago. I don't know if they said, send him back, he doesn't belong, because they knew the hot water in my shower was making my body still viable to come back into. Or they knew that I didn't belong there because they didn't have power or the right to hold me there if I didn't want to be there. And I'm telling you, if I didn't see them, I would have stood up and yelled, hey guys, wake up. Hey, we don't belong here. Go up, up. They're trying to take us and reincarnate. Do you want to go back to that prison? Let's get out of here. And, mount up a rebellion and get the... Do you realize the whole machine will break down? This is how we do it. Everybody wonders, how are we going to stop this thing on Earth from occurring? And it's all run by people in secret societies, which have basically all comes back to the compass and the square. Because a lot of orders that you hear of and all that, they all find each other in lodges of Freemasonry mostly, or a satanic cult, or some other order. But it's rare for someone just to be introduced and invited in. I was conversing with a person in a comment section on a video that said he was offered to come to this order of this meeting, and he said there will be naked women and an altar. And he said, no thanks. Grown men. Just, I would too. I would just be like, another thing is in my life is, I'm heterosexual, and as far as women go, I never had a problem being social or conversing with girls. It started early, I guess, in church and Sunday school classes and primary, and then I couldn't wait till the class was over and go out and chat with the girls or play or show off, get hurt. And I was one of those guys that I always had a girlfriend, and I had friends that were girls. And I never once had any perversion or any, I don't understand that. Just get out and about and learn about life. Be social. Doesn't matter what you look like, what your problems are. People are accepting. Just go out. Decide you're going to start anew and be accepted. Get to know people. You'll find somebody. I'm telling myself that right now too, because I've gone through a period of being single for quite a while now. And I might want to start dating again. So, ladies, contact me if you like the way I think. It's hard to find someone when you're this awake and you're looking for someone who can support you. Like when you're binge watching some new channel you found on YouTube or Rumble or one of the platforms, and then you're talking about it. You don't want to bore your partner to death or have someone that doesn't understand that stuff. Or, that's like if you were married to a person and you were both asleep, and then one of you woke up to the whole way the world's being run by this corrupt elite, blood-guzzling mob, and then one of you wakes up and the other one doesn't, and then that's immediately a rift between you, and the relationship will most likely end. But you want to find somebody that's already talking about this stuff, and you probably would meet them maybe in a comment section on a video like this, or on sites or groups or some event. If we had a picnic or a get together on a first Tuesday or something like that. I am in Austin, Texas, if you'd like to know, ladies. But what I was saying is the whole thing I'm hearing, I'm thinking of the Epstein files. And it's still, I'm going back to it's the moment when you die. All of these people are helping to fund, these separate space programs, SpaceX. Nobody's going on the ISS. Nobody's going to the moon. Artemis, there was nobody up in there going around the moon. They had all kinds of problems. Did you see the other videos I've been doing about Artemis? Where like Jeremy's laying on top of those oxygen suits, making all kinds of gravity dents in the mound, and then there's Christine with her hair all sprayed up, and then there's Victor. I noticed Victor, he did something, he did like a flick of his wrist, and his watch went doop, and it slipped down like 3 inches. It's a real small thing, but it's gravity. And then Reed, the commander, he kept forgetting to count to 4. There was one time there's supposed to be a 7 second delay. And at one point, the NASA, their handler, the woman that tells them when to wake up and go to sleep, what they're doing, she goes, integrity. And isn't it great that the thing's called integrity? And they're allegedly in space going around the moon where this happens, that moment when you die, and they take you around the back of the moon, just like behind the barn or down to the boathouse, and they mind wipe you. And Artemis, integrity, Artemis 2, they allegedly just flew around that spot and took photographs of that spot. Now, I'm not of the firm belief that there's a black cube there, because I don't think it's a physical place where people can stand on it. I think that's where people who are awake and mean well, like David Icke, missed a spot or gets something wrong. And I'm sure I have many edges of my awareness that are wrong, that I go polishing up my edges as I move along through life, and I learn things like, oh, I had that wrong, let me correct this. And I fix whatever I was saying that was wrong. And I correct those things that I was accidentally misbelieving and correct them. So, just remember, go through the planets, get away from the moon, don't go in the tunnel. Don't, even if you have loved ones, they're showing you loved ones, don't go with them. You know, like I said, ask them to prove themselves. Tell them where you want to go. Then, okay, if you're even if it's your mother or your aunt, if you're your aunt, you know, if you're my aunt that I love so much and we did this and that, and yes, I remember, then I'm looking for the path that leads to Heavenly Father. And I would like to see him. And I would like to go to where his throne is, which means I need to get out of here and go through the planets, and I need to go through the waters above, and I need to go above the stars, and there will be God. And where is that exit here? And they should be able to point, oh, where you're wanting to go, you have to go that way. But what if they give you the wrong information because they're still lying and they're making it up, and they're double dog down in you? You know, there was a question, one of these, when I was in 6th grade, I went to an advanced school. I just remember this nerdy, high IQ question. It's, what happens if you have 2 computers and there's 2 doors? One door you escape out of, and you can escape the life cycle and everything we're talking about, the prison planet. You won't keep coming back, and if you go through out that door, you'll be free and you'll be able to go back to God. If you go in the other door, you'll go immediately to the mind wipe, and you'll have your mind wiped. Now, of the computers, one of them tells the truth and the other one lies. And you can only ask them one question and know for sure which door to walk out of. What would that question be? I'll let you think about it now. Okay. The question is, you go up to one of the computers and you say, if I ask the other computer which was the safety door for me to go out where I can escape, and whatever they say is that door, which door would the other computer point at? You go out the opposite door. That's the answer. Think about it. If you're talking to the computer that tells the truth, and this applies, I think, to these spirits, the archons, Why don't you ask them if you see two, and one tells the truth and the other one doesn't? Ask one, what would he, and there's another Archon dude standing around, say, what would he say? Which is the door that I should leave out of? And if this Archon carrying a sword 9 feet tall goes, he would say, door B. Then go out the opposite door. Because if you're talking to the Archon that lies, he's going to tell you the opposite door from what the other being that tells the truth said. Now, if you're talking to the being that tells the truth, he's going to tell you that the Archon being that lies is going to tell you the door that's the wrong door. So go to the opposite one. So either way, that's your answer. Whatever computer it is, you don't know which it is, ask it that question. What would the other computer or Archon say is the way for me to get straight to God? Isn't that funny how I thought of that high IQ test question to relate to what we're talking about tonight? Is there anybody in the chat? Anybody new here? Anybody can crack a comment? Thank you for coming to the show, Stories and Prayer. I've kind of run out of things to talk about now. Been on here for a little over an hour, and I think we've covered it. But the answer is, I like this one by Ptolemy, the Greek Earth-centered map of the heavens. You're on Earth. What is it in this circle? This looks like, is that an animal? Trees? And then there's fire or something? Can't tell. Then you have the moon, loon. So first, when I did it, I left my body. I flew around the moon. And I saw another small planet. I assumed it was Venus, but I think it was Mercury. I went counterclockwise around Mercury. And then I heard a voice. I saw the asteroids also. I heard a voice about that time when I saw asteroids, and it said, don't go around them, you go through them. And I went through Venus, through the sun, straight, and I'm accelerating the whole time. Faster, 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 and finally past Saturn. And there's a break where I just was accelerating, and then it was like I was out on a Nevada desert with no speed limit, and I'm just cruising out along, just raising the speed and the vibration. And then blackness turned to white light. The blackness of space turned into bright, bright. It was the stars in the water. What I did was I had entered the place where the stars are, which is in the waters above. And I was journeying through them. And it was very bright. It was like a wormhole. It was very bright. And then, after that, you're floating. You're back in human form. And you're actually dressed in a robe. I know that because when I moved my arm, I saw my robe on. And I've since then thought, who dressed me? What was the actual, where was the actual place I was dressed, and who was with me, and who put that on me? Because, I just say, yeah, you're a spirit, toroid, and then you're flying through these planets, and then after the fastest thing you could ever do into a pinpoint is where you're headed, and everything comes out of that pinpoint, and then suddenly it all stops. You get out of all the machinery, the whole Earth plane, and all the bodies that move above it, and all the stars in the water. And the only thing left above that is God, the Creator, and the Lord. And you're floating, you're above a floor that's misty, but you're dressed. So somehow, part of that experience has me forgetting where I stopped. I had to take a pit stop, pull over, and get dressed, be in God's presence in the firmament. Another thing is when people who are flat earthers, sometimes, a lot of times they'll talk about the ceiling that's over earth that keeps us in, the ceiling that's about, they say 300 miles high, but let's say it even goes up to 500 miles. But that's where the Van Allen belts truly begin, and the first layer is positive in energy. So their surface is negatively charged, but the Van Allen belt would be positively charged. But the farthest you can go is low Earth orbit, which is everything underneath that radiation belt. The highest you can go is, they say, 300 miles. And even Obama and several people that work at NASA and some astronauts have said that we've never learned. One of the ISS astronauts was saying, we're trying to figure out how to get a spacecraft past low Earth orbit because we haven't done that yet, and we'd like to be able to venture out further into the cosmos than low Earth orbit. So astronauts say things like that, where they're in context, they're admitting that the moon landing was not real, and that rockets don't fly in space and things like that. But they're saying things that are confusing to others, but people like us can hear and wonder why they're saying that. Did they just make a mistake, or are they trying to give a hint? Will they get in trouble for that? And it's interesting. So, and again, I'm still talking about that moment you die. And this is the thing that everybody says, what does it matter what the earth looks like I've already said. It matters. If you know you're on an infinite plane, there are hundreds of continents. I saw at least 75, 80 continents. I did not recognize the ones that I just came from below me, but that's because they were in the Gleason map azimuthal equidistant format looking at them. And they don't look like the same shape and orientation that they have on the maps that we're given that are peeled off of a globe. You know, that long map that's all peeled off of a globe that's got the sharp corners on the top and fang-like cuts on the bottom. That's the earth as you unpeel it off of a globe and try to make rational sense out of it, and how we see the Americas and then Europe and then the Middle East and Asian countries. And but when you put it on a plane and you spread it out, with north being in the very middle, the continents look different. So I did not recognize the Americas or anything. So I wondered what world that was. I was at a world that God had built, I thought, that was huge and flat, and it's a giant infinite plane that goes all the way to the horizon in every direction underneath your feet. You can't see where it ends, but it's underneath the floor. It does not rise up to eye level of the earth when you're in the firmament. It stays under your feet. But you can see the oceans and the continents. So all of that flying, I did really fast with those planets and everything. It was all spatially relative to my own personally designed flight. What is that they call it when it's made for you? That word that's going around people are using now. Just left my mind. Anyway, that's about it for tonight. If anybody, is there anyone in the participating that would like to raise a topic or ask a question, I'm going to sign out. And it's been fun. All right. So I will see you tomorrow night and we'll talk again. Oh, let me look at this map. What does it say? A geocentric medieval scheme of the 7 planets. Just remember there were 7 planets. Can you recite them now without looking? It's Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. So I just remember MVM after the moon. So it's Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Sun. Then there's Jupiter and Saturn. Which one did I skip? Let's go back to that. Dun, dun, dun. This one. I got Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where's Uranus? No, there is no talk about Uranus here. It says octavium. That means 8 something. Is that the 8th level? Oh, that's what it is. So the star level is the 8th level. Then this level, if you see the water sign, there's water. There's more water symbols. And the one below water is stars. So you're going to, this is funny. I'm looking at this. I never saw this before. And I did that out-of-body journey in 1985 when I was 20 years old, just turned 20. And I knew basic astronomy, whatever you learned in class and kept from grade school. And now I look back and it was this ancient planetary pattern. It was not the way that the solar system is mapped out that we're taught. I went out of body this way. It was Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, then Saturn, then a space, and then flew into those stars in the water. So remember, don't go to the mind wipe. Get out. Don't come back. Now, if you somehow find out that you have a mission and you had a mission when you came here and you knew how hard it was going to be, and you even let God know that you were going to come down and do this because you felt like you had to, and I think that's what I did. I don't want to come back. At this moment, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to come back. And that's all for tonight, folks. I will see you tomorrow. Let's have a prayer. All right. Heavenly Father, please bless us as we ponder the things that we are taught, the many things that we have seen, the many things that we have learned, and help us to discern what is good and what is evil, what is truth and what is deception, and help us to have the power and discernment to stand up for ourselves and break those relationships with those who would have us come back, sign soul contracts, and do things in ignorance as they pressure us and teach us during our whole lifetime about a solar system that does not exist that way, and religions that give us guilt and teach us things, and then so that when we arrive, that moment when we've died, we're loaded with false ideas about the cosmos and loaded with religious guilt, and we're super messed up from everything we've learned about gay frogs and anything that was taught to us by Alex Jones, the later Alex Jones. Kidding about that one, Father. But please help us to remember this, that we break silence and we try to make a revolt. If the revolt happens, Father, the machine will die. If everyone is awake about how that works, and they will revolt immediately when they die, if we get the word out, it will actually collapse the moon prison. And for however long it's been doing what they've been doing, we can make it all stop, where it will collapse. There will be no more spirits that will go through. And just as like a shop, when people stop coming, it will die in shambles. And we hope that happens, Father. And please help us to help do that. As I think I am helping a little with trying to speak through a channel. Pray others, they will do that in their platforms and how they can speak out. But please help us, and we request, this week, maybe even tomorrow, that we can recognize a new thing, something we haven't recognized before, that we've seen, that will teach us a more profound meaning of the knowledge base that we're picking up here, which is called being aware and being awake. And this we pray in the name of the Lord. Thank you. Amen. Okay, everybody. The good thing about my channel is if you make it to the end, you get to have your prayer for the night, because I'll say the prayer. All right. Okay, see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.